Good afternoon, I'm Faye Barker. A 12-year-old boy has been charged with murder following the death of a grandmother who was hit by a car. 60-year-old social worker Marcia Grant's family described her as warm and loving. Our North of England correspondent Rachel Townsend is in Sheffield where the incident happened. So Rachel, what more can you tell us?
Well, there is a huge sense of shock in this leafy suburb of Sheffield today, and we are getting a real sense of the kind of person who Marcia Grant was. Her death has been described as an enormous loss to this community. A 12-year-old boy has been charged with her murder. She was killed after a collision on this road with the car on Wednesday evening. Neighbours have described how the grandmother was trapped underneath the vehicle. Police, ambulance and fire crews tried to help her, but she died at the scene. Now, Marcia's family are understandably devastated. In a statement, they say Marcia was a warm, loving and dedicated wife, mother, grandmother, sister and friend, and a pillar of her community. Her loss has already sent shockwaves through all who knew her or who was lucky enough to be included in her orbit. Well, the 12-year-old boy, who we can't name because of his age, will appear at Sheffield Youth Court tomorrow.
Rachel in Sheffield, thank you. Police in Northern Ireland have warned that dissident Republicans could carry out attacks over the Easter weekend. The PSNI's chief constable said more officers would be moved to frontline duties ahead of the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement. MI5 recently raised the terror threat in Northern Ireland to severe. Now, anyone travelling today to get away over Easter is being warned to prepare for possible delays following the chaos at the port of Dover last weekend. Measures have been put in place to ease queues there over this long weekend. Well, Callum Watkinson is in Dover. So, Callum, how is it looking?
Well, it is busy for sure. There are queues snaking back from the port through the town and beyond. DFDS and P&O, the ferry companies, they're saying it's taking people between an hour and a half to get through customs. Irish ferries have been warning their customers that it might take up to 3 hours. And the chief exec of the port here, he was saying this morning between 60 and 90 minutes, but certainly nothing like the chaos that we saw last weekend. There's a few reasons for that. Bookings are 30% down apparently on what they were then. There's been a new system in place for getting coach parties through. We're told that's working well, and there have been police on the junctions here in Dover directing traffic by hand. Still though, people are being warned to bring food and drink with them in case they do get stuck in these queues, which we're told are expected to peak early afternoon and ease off from there.
OK, Callum, thank you. Israel has fired missiles into southern Lebanon in the most serious flare-up along their border since the 2006 war. Missiles landed on open land near a Palestinian refugee camp. Israel also hit parts of the Gaza Strip in response to rockets fired into its territory. And 2 women were killed in an attack by a Palestinian gunman in the occupied West Bank. Here, a 16-year-old boy has been arrested on suspicion of murder after a 14-year-old girl died in a fire in East London. Firefighters were called to the block of flats in Beckton on Thursday. And the SNP's auditors have resigned just days after former party chief executive Peter Murrell, Nicola Sturgeon's husband, was arrested in a police investigation into the party's finances. NHS services are expected to come under increased pressure over the bank holiday weekend. Ahead of fresh strikes by junior doctors, there's a warning that patient care rests on a knife edge. Barbara Holmes has the story.
The NHS is facing an unprecedented week. A 4-day bank holiday weekend, followed by 4 days of strike action by junior doctors. It's expected to stretch the service to its limits. England's top doctor says patients who need help will get it, but some care will be impacted.
This is the longest period of industrial action that we have seen. It's probably going to be the most disruptive in NHS history, but our priority is to keep patients safe. But unfortunately, that means that many other services, our routine services, are going to be disrupted.
Among those stepping in to cover striking junior doctors will be A&E consultant Michael Stewart. He says the public can help keep things running smoothly over the next few days.
So being prepared for self-care when that's appropriate. So simple things like having a stocked medicine cabinet and first aid kits. You can look after minor illnesses and injuries yourself. And then using the most appropriate route of support for your needs.
Junior doctors make up around half of all doctors in the NHS. They say poor pay means their numbers are stretched, compromising patient safety. They want their pay raised by £5 an hour to bring it in line with what it was in 2008.
So we are 9,000 doctors short at the moment, that's a fact. 40% of doctors want to leave right now, that's a fact. And the government and the BMA do agree on one thing, and that is we do lack doctors. Our solution to this is very simple, pay restoration.
But the government say their demands are unreasonable and they need a realistic approach. Barbara Holmes, ITV News.
Finally, England's Lionesses continued their winning ways with victory in the first ever women's finalissima. The European champions were at Wembley last night up against Copa America winners Brazil, the match ending in a dramatic penalty shootout. The Lionesses are now unbeaten in their last 30 games with just 4 months to go until the World Cup. That's it. The news where you are follows the national weather, and Lucrezia will be here with the latest at 20 to 7. Until then, have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.